In this lesson, you will learn about the 11.4.1 changes to the note in AEHR. Lesson activities include watching a demonstration, then building your skills in a practice scenario. When ready to begin, click Continue. As we navigate through this lesson, we will periodically zoom into sections of the note to ensure easier viewing of the different sections. We begin this lesson viewing a note for our patient Amber Allscripts. In many sections of the note, including the Current Med section, we have the ability to lock the section. In order to demonstrate the lock functionality, we will zoom into that section of the note. We are now viewing the Current Med section of the note. The lock feature is located at the top right corner of the section. The lock function allows you to capture a snapshot of the current information before the note is finalized. When a section is locked, it prevents future changes to the patient's record from making dynamic updates to the note content. For example, the medication section of Amber's note is not currently locked. If she is prescribed a medication prior to the note being finalized, the new medication would automatically update the note. By locking the medication section, the new medication would not automatically be added to the note. After a section is locked, it can be unlocked to make any necessary updates. However, caution is required when unlocking a section, as information added from the time the section was locked would be automatically added to the note. The Current Med section is now locked. No changes can be made to this section until it is unlocked. The Unlock button is used to unlock the section. When the Unlock button is used, an Unlock Amend message displays indicating that unlocking the section has the potential to update the list. The OK button is used to complete the unlock action. The section is once again unlocked. In addition to the lock feature, 11.4.1 also has an Auto Freeze feature. Auto Freeze locks all sections of the note automatically if the note is in the unsigned or signed but not final status for 72 hours. When a note is not signed and the 72 hours has elapsed, the note status changes to Auto Frozen Unsigned. A signed note task remains on the provider's task list. Once in the Auto Frozen Unsigned status, any edits made prior to being signed or finalized show up as an amendment. If you sign or finalize the note from this view without editing the note, it does not count as an amendment. After the 72 hours has elapsed on a note that is signed but not final, the status changes to Auto Frozen Signed. In this scenario, a related task remains on the task list and any edits made at this stage are indicated as an amendment. Once a note has been finalized, it will not be auto-frozen again, even if it is unlocked for editing and left unfinalized for a second time. The Current Med section is a cited section of the note. A cited section is a section that is populated with the current patient information when the note is created. The information in the cited section does not update with new information unless the cited section is recited. For example, in the Current Med section, we can see all medication prescribed for the patient prior to the note being started. If we were to add a new medication, the new medication would not be added to the Current Med section unless the Current Med section is recited. To recite the cited section, simply click on the Recite icon in the application section. All medication added after the note is opened will be listed in one of the two new sections of the note called the End of Encounter Meds. Let's take a moment to review the End of Encounter Meds section. The End of Encounter section now displays. Rather than just displaying a snapshot of the medications listed in the Current Med section, the End of Encounter section shows all medications for the patient, including pre-existing medication and medication added during the current encounter. Let's take a moment and review the second new section called the Future Appointment section. This is the Future Appointment section. The Future Appointment section lists all appointments the patient currently has scheduled for any provider who utilizes the AEHR system. In our example, Amber currently does not have any future appointments scheduled. Next, we'll review the carbon copy functionality. The carbon copy function is located in the Output section. In our example, we will send a copy of the office visit to a provider who is already in AEHR and also to a provider who is outside AEHR. The first step is to click the carbon copy icon located to the right of the office visit in the Output Template section. The Carbon Copies window displays. The accumulator, located to the left side of the window, displays a list of selected recipients who will receive the office visit carbon copy. As recipients are selected, their contact information and method by which they will receive the copy will populate in the accumulator. There are 3 ways to add a recipient to receive a carbon copy. In our example, we will select Cardiologist Allscripts from the list of providers in the patient care team. To add Cardiologist Allscripts to the accumulator, we will click on the checkbox to the left of the name. Now that Cardiologist Allscripts has been selected, the information displays in the accumulator. Since Cardiologist Allscripts is a provider already in AEHR, the carbon copy will be sent as a review task. The second method is to search for a provider who is not already a member of Amber's patient care team. The first step is to select the Manual tab. The information in the Manual tab now displays. For this example, let's search for Pediatrician Allscripts. First, we'll enter the provider's last name of Allscripts into the search field. The next step is to click on the binocular icon. The search results display. To select Pediatrician Allscripts, we must click on the checkbox to the left of the name. The information for Pediatrician Allscripts now displays in the accumulator. The third process to add a recipient is to manually add a provider who is not in AEHR. This is done by clicking on the ad hoc icon located at the bottom of the window. This prompts the recipient window to display. Our next step is to enter the name of the provider we wish to carbon copy in the name field. For our example, we'll use the provider name of ENT Allscripts. Next, we'll select the method by which we will provide the carbon copy. We have the option to print the document and mail it to the provider, fax the copy, or send a review task. Since this provider is not in AEHR, the review task option is grayed out and cannot be selected. In our example, we'll fax the office visit to ENT Allscripts by selecting the radio button to the left of the fax option. Selecting the fax option prompts the fax number field to display. Since we are sending the document via fax, at a minimum, we are required to enter a fax number. Let's complete the destination information. Now that the recipient information has been entered, let's click on the OK button to return to the Carbon Copies window. We have returned to the Carbon Copies window. Notice the provider we just added appears in the accumulator. In addition to the provider's name, it also indicates that the carbon copy will be sent via fax. To complete the selection of recipients and return to the note, we will click on the OK button. We have returned to the note. Let's add a referral to the weight management program for Amber. To add a referral, we'll use the drop-down arrow to the right of the beaker icon and select Follow-up Referral from the list of values. The Follow-up Referral tab displays. To start the referral to a weight management program, we must first enter our search criteria of weight management in the search field, then click the binocular icon. The Referral to Weight Management Program option displays. To select this option, we'll click the checkbox to the left of the name. The Order Details window displays. We have already entered health maintenance as the reason for the referral. The status field defaulted to active, and the to be done defaulted to today's date. If the information in these fields required a change, we would click the drop-down arrow or the calendar icon to the right of the field and select the appropriate option. Notice the blue hyperlink below the To Be Done field. This is the date the referral becomes overdue. To change the overdue date, we would click on the link and make the necessary change. Let's click on this link to see where this date is changed. Clicking on the To Be Done hyperlink date prompts the Additional Details tab to display. From here, we can change the financial authorization, appointment status, overdue in, effective date, and expires date fields. For our example, we'll leave this information as it defaulted, but again, the drop-down arrows and calendar icons to the right of the fields are used to make any necessary changes. Notice the Details tab appears in yellow. This indicates that there is required information in this section that must be completed prior to finalizing the referral. Let's return to the Details section by clicking on the Details tab hyperlink. We have returned to the Details section. Before we review the Details section, let's talk about the recipient field in the header portion of the Order Details window. The recipient field is populated with the name of the provider if you know to whom the patient will be referred. If the name of the provider is not known, the name of the facility can be entered in this field. There are two ways to complete this field. The first is when the recipient has been selected before or is set as a favorite. When this is the case, the drop-down arrow can be used to select the recipient. If the recipient has not been entered before, the binocular icon is used to begin a search. For this example, we'll use the binocular icon to enter the recipient. The Select Recipient window displays. By selecting the appropriate radio button at the top of the window, we have the option to do a quick search, an advanced search, or browse favorites. For our example, we'll use the quick search. In the quick search field, we'll enter the name of our recipient. The name of our recipient is Referring Allscripts, so we'll enter the last name of Allscripts in the search field. Once the recipient information is entered in the quick search field, the search button becomes active and is used to initiate the search. Our recipient displays. To select Referring Allscripts as the recipient, we must check the box to the left of the provider's name. Once the recipient is selected, the OK button becomes active and allows us to add the recipient to the referral. Prior to clicking the OK button, let's take a moment and review how to add this recipient as a favorite. To add Referring Allscripts as a favorite provider, we must single-click on the star icon located between the checkbox and the recipient name field. We have now added Referring Allscripts as a favorite provider. Let's finalize our recipient selection and return to the Order Details window by clicking on the OK button. Back on the Order Details window, we now see the provider we selected appears in the recipient field. If the recipient was a facility and we wanted to indicate our patient should see the first available provider, we would check the box to the left of the first available provider option. Since we selected a specific provider, it is not necessary for us to select this option. Now let's review the Details section. The Reason field is highlighted in yellow, which indicates a reason for the referral must be entered prior to submitting the referral. If the reason for the referral does not automatically default for us, we have three options to complete this field. First, we can manually enter information in this field by clicking in the yellow text box and entering the reason for the referral. We can add and use text templates to enter the reason by clicking on the TT button located to the right of the text box. And finally, we can use the checkbox to the left of the word Insert Problem to have the problem inserted for us. For this example, let's use the Insert Problem option. Notice that by using the Insert Problem option, the problem of health maintenance was entered into the Reason field. This information comes from the For field in the header portion of the screen, which we selected while on the ACI Orders tab. Let's scroll down to see the other fields in this section. We moved further down into the Details tab. From here, we can set the priority or authorization. We can also change the Ordered by, Supervised by, or Managed by provider fields. Let's scroll further down to review the remaining fields in the Details section. Here we have areas to add notes for the scheduler or patient. If we have common notes, text templates could be added and used in these fields. Let's continue by clicking the Questions hyperlink. The Questions section displays. In some cases, a question will appear in this section. Notice the Answer field related to this question appears in light yellow. When an answer field is highlighted in light yellow and is not answered, a Needs Info task is generated. To answer this question, we'll click on the drop-down arrow to the right of the field. The drop-down menu displays showing the available responses. In our case, we have provided the care summary, so we'll select Yes from the list of values. We have completed the referral information. Let's return to the note by clicking on the Save and Close ACI button. We have returned to the note. Another new feature of the note is the ability to perform a spell check. Spell check performs a spelling check on all free text boxes of the note authoring workspace and in the note accumulator. We have completed our review of the 11.4.1 upgrade changes to the AEHR note. Let's save our changes and return to the daily schedule. We are now back on the daily schedule screen. Another feature of 11.4.1 is the ability to change the clinical summary prior to printing. The Edit Clinical Summary button is used to edit the clinical summary. Clicking on the Edit Clinical Summary button prompts the Clinical Summary Editor window to display. On the left side of the screen is a list of different sections of the clinical summary. Each section has a checkbox to the left of the name. If the box has a check, that section will be included in the clinical summary. By checking and unchecking boxes, you are adding or removing sections from the clinical summary. Notice the checkboxes for the patient details and procedure sections are grayed out. Gray checkboxes indicate the section cannot be removed from the clinical summary. Notice the Print Preview option is selected at the top of the list. This allows you to preview how the clinical summary would appear when printed based on the selections made on the left side of the screen. Another function of the screen is to isolate a specific section of the clinical summary to either view more closely or to add comments. This is done by clicking on the name of the section on the left side of the screen. For example, to add a comment related to medications, you would click on Medications on the left side of the screen. Our preview now isolates just medications. In our example, no medications have been documented, but we could add a comment here that would print in the medication section of the clinical summary. Since we do not have any medication information or comments, let's remove the medication section from the clinical summary. To remove the medication section, you would click the checkbox to the left of the word Medications. Prior to printing our clinical summary, let's take another look at the print preview. Notice the print preview of the clinical summary now no longer contains the medication section and has been replaced by the problems section. After completing all changes to the clinical summary, the Generate CS button is used to generate and print the clinical summary. We are now back on the daily schedule. This completes our review of the 11.4.1 upgrade changes to the Note.